Hello there, I am Man in Yellow and welcome back to another high rank game review video. This is on Papou11 and we will be looking at a game between dudiobugtron and Papou11. The reason why I chose this game is because I think it showcases how you can defend against Speedolas on this map. Speedolas are a game plan I have been playing a lot here and it has been very successful for me. I think there has been like 2 or 3 people who actually defended against it, but other than that I have killed people very fast, very early on in a lot of games, and even games where they managed to stall out, I would eventually manage to hold the side lanes like this over here and this over here with one of the Speedolas, and then I would roll in and kill them after. So it has been working out really well for me, and this is just a good game for showing how you could defend against that, because dudiobugtron does a very good job of that here in my opinion. They use several phobies which make it easier for them. They used Sharon to make these lava tiles easy to stand on for their team, allowing them to create a big group down here where they can actually stand, and things such as that. You will see it all in a second. We also see something quite interesting from Papou here, in that they place their Henrietta on the lava. This is interesting because this is trying to prevent the opponent from going here with their gravedigger, obviously, or up here. But that doesn't really make much sense in my opinion, because like they could just take it with the 1 key, and then are you trading your Henrietta for poison on a razor mouth? Not really. So then you're moving it in here, but then it has already taken damage. Doesn't really make much sense. So this is probably just like a I'm high level, I can do whatever I want kind of play. They also bang to 9 keys, which is probably a mistake as player 2 here. We see the early Charon come out. Personally, I don't really like use Charon on this map, but that is because in something like 85 to 90% of the games that I play on this map, I play very aggressive. Even if it's not Speedola, I'm still playing aggressive most of the time, so it doesn't make that much sense for me. But if you're playing a more defensive game plan built around making your team down here, or even moving up here with your team and holding this part of the map, then using Sharon can be really good, because removing some of these lava tiles allows you to have your team stand more collectively, or whatever you want to say, like they can stand together rather than being spread out and like having to stand on lava at awkward times. So that makes it a lot better most of the time. It also makes it way better to bring slow phobies, because they don't have to stop and sit there, and they can stand in places where it's way better for them. Which I believe we also see here. I'm pretty sure Dudio brings a Erratic to counter the Speedolas, along with other things. And here we see a very aggressive Rambolina play. This is a play I have actually done myself several times before in this map, but I usually do it later in the game, where you put a Speedola out here on the middle tile, where it will be healed, and it's like pretty tanky because Rambolina is tanky. You can also do the same thing with a Speedola. Put it out here in the middle, and it will sit here, and the opponent will not really be able to hold this tile without like killing the middle phobie, because you can just kill whatever they put there and then take their panic points and be very aggressive that way. Rambolina is great because it can push people into lava here and things like that, and it can still be aggressive towards the heart. I think it's probably a mistake to not bring the Speedolas on this turn though, and I think they should also have gone more aggressive with their 1 keys on the other turns. Like they should have brought more things in. But it's fine, I guess, to use Rambolina there. You can make some argument for it, I guess. We also see a ice cream come in, like I talked about. Slow phobies are much better when you are using Charon on this map than they otherwise would be. So it's pretty decent here. Normally I would not be going ice cream, but ice cream is also just pretty decent because it's very good at being defensive. Like you can't really walk into something and then get frozen and hit. That is very bad for you. You have to have a defroster behind them or something like that. We're already seeing some value with the, what do you want to call it, the loop or whatever, mud from this Sharon here. This can move forward to be more aggressive. This doesn't end up taking damage while it's killing the enemy 1 key. So overall that's just very good. And we see a very defensive Erratic come down here. It's going to wrap around and sit out here. Maybe move on to one of these tiles while it's modded up. But otherwise it will just sit near the heart to prevent these Speedolas from having fun. Which I think is pretty clever. Because it is a position that is very hard to actually attack when you just have it sitting down here somewhere. Like, your other phobies can support it really well. You can't really hit it with a lot of things without like bringing your own anti-lava phobies and building a team down here, which is pretty hard to do at this point of the map. And all of these melee phobies walking into Erratic are going to be very sad, especially the mechanical ones, obviously. Rambolina does actually work pretty well against this though, because you could go down and hit the heart and push the Erratic back and then go aggressive with your Speedolas. But I think what Papou should be doing here is they should be bringing something up here to threaten the Gravedigger, and then they can maybe take over this tile, and they should be bringing more phobies on top of that. You can see they are still banking to 7 keys. I think what they should have been doing is they should have been running out here with the blue Speedola or the red Speedola. Either one should be out here to try and like take this tile, and then maybe they should have brought like a creep or even double 1 key just to take panic points and be very aggressive. Because if you are playing Speedola on this map, you are playing to kill the opponent's heart. That is what you are doing. You can also use them for fighting, and they can be pretty good for fighting, and you can hold the sides with them like I talked about, but mainly you're just looking to beat the hell out of the opponent's heart. You put a Speedola down here where it's hard to attack it, and then you just like use it as a heart rushing phobia that hits the heart very, very hard, and it can't really be removed that well because it's hard to get to, and it is very high health. And they are of course very fast at getting to the opponent's heart, which makes them even better for that. You can also see Dudio does not want their phobie to get pushed here. That would be very annoying for them if Papou went in, pushed this Erratic away, and then went in with their Speedolas to hit the heart. Maybe like try and block them out a little bit and things like that. That could be pretty annoying. So we are just seeing 2 stasis phobies sit here, which completely prevents the opponent from controlling this Erratic. Which means either you are taking the hits from the Erratic, or you're not going in. There's no other choice here. I mean, you could kill the Erratic, but you can't do that here, because there's not enough spaces to hit on, and you don't have enough damage. So there's no way that this ever dies in this position, which just means that the heart is completely safe here. You can also see, because Papou were a bit greedy here and they didn't bring any 1 keys, they are now also losing this panic point, which means now they are not even on panic points, they are down panic points while trying to go for a hard rush strategy, which you never really want to be. So at this point the game is very hard to play from Papou's perspective, because they have already made multiple errors so far, and Dudio has set up a very, very sturdy defense that is extremely hard to get into here. Like, yeah, maybe they can go in and kill the Ice Cream, but then what happens? This double hits your phobies and get 2 hits on these mechanicals, and there's an AoE phobia in here, multiple melee fighters, and a Charon hitting you. That is just going to be a very, very bad trade most of the time. So you can't even really do that, realistically. Instead, they just push these back and try and take back the panic points a little bit, which I think is probably their best option here, but it's not looking very good. Again, we see another phobie stand on lava, because apparently when you have like level 20s, 26s here, whatever phobies they have like mainly 26s, I think, some 27s. Apparently you can just stand on lava, which you really shouldn't be doing still, but they just want to stand on lava for some reason. I guess they want it out here because they are scared that this Rambolina is going to get frozen, and then you would be able to immediately wake it up. But is that really worth placing this on lava over? Maybe it is, I don't know. But that's probably the idea behind that. Here we're just gonna see a lot of damage being done, AoE hits and attacks and stuff. And the Rambolina is just dead, so it doesn't really matter if you can unfreeze it if it's dead. Then it doesn't matter at all. Again, we see the reclaim and we see another mud phobie come out, just to save this Erratic from taking free damage. I don't know if that's necessarily worth it, but it's fine, I guess, if you just want to play entirely around the Erratic. Works pretty well. See the Gravedigger kill, which looks fairly good because you can't really freeze any of these phobies, and Dudio does not have enough attack power up here to really threaten these. But on the other side of the map, you can see now all of the panic points are free to take. The Erratic is in a great position. You have no real way of hard rushing. So even though you do get this pretty decent Gravedigger kill, this game is still looking very rough. We see a bad sheep come out. Funnily enough, I think this phobie should have been on lava, because you really want this to be able to dive the opponent and get multiple hits with it, because it will put the poison on both the Charon and the Erratic, and those are both very good poison targets. It's not as good on the Ruckus because it can just heal, which the other two can't. This needs to have an actual healer heal it, because it can't use healing spars, and this is an undead. So I think maybe this bad sheep should actually have been sitting out here somewhere on one of these two tiles, funnily enough, because they have placed so many phobies on lava that probably shouldn't have been there, and now one phobie should have been on lava and they're not putting it on lava. So that's kind of weird or funny, I think. But overall, not a bad turn for Papou. This is definitely one of the best phobies they could bring against this team, so at least they got that right, but it's still not good for them. We do see the freeze used here because why not? You're just forcing the opponent to use the fire attack, I guess. Making this, like, Puff be unable to attack for a turn is essentially the effect they get out of this. And another Rambolina comes in here. You usually don't see this many Rambolinas, even though it is pretty decent on this map. The Rambolina is a great choice here, and the reason for that is melee phobie. Technically speaking, a melee phobie, but this has a ranged ability, so not really. But these are both melee phobies, and all of yours are ranged. So if these go in and hit your phobies, you then push them away. You hit them a bunch. They have to go back in again, spend another action to move, and then hit again. So you are essentially like removing an attack from the opponent by pushing them away in a fight here. So it works out pretty well. It is also very fast. It can take panic points. You can push the opponent's phobies away. It's overall just great in this position. And push them into lava. Things like that. Another poison phobie comes out here. That's probably overkill at this point. You don't really need multiple poisoners necessarily. But whatever. Who cares, really? And here you can see Dudio is doing some very advanced positioning. These phobies look like they are out of the fight right now, but the reason for that is because Papou really wants to put the poison on this Erratic. So Dudio is making them have a choice of being able to do that here, which they are pretty much forced to do. But if they do that, they only get the poison on the Erratic, and then they will lose their sheep. What they alternatively can do is they can go in here and use the poison, and then use this to poison the Erratic, but then you are running directly into the opponent's team and you're going to lose all of your phobies. So if the bad sheeps go in here and poisons, you only get it on the Erratic, the bad sheep dies, this gets healed immediately and cured, so it's not even poisoned. The other phobies are all fine and can start moving in, and you're probably going to lose the fight. If you do the other thing, the sheep goes in here, it probably dies, this Charon will just get healed. This may even also get healed, the Honey Bear. And you are going to lose your Noxious too when it goes in here to hit the enemy Erratic with poison. So you're just losing all of your phobies then. Both plays are terrible. So they are setting up a position here where Papou feels like he has to go in. But also any way that they go in is very bad for them. So that is a very rough position to be in. Also, I would probably have used the Boomer in a way where it would die here just to free up unit space, but that is another discussion, I guess. Here we just end up seeing the full attack in to try and kill the opponent's stuff, which makes sense. You want these rockets to die. But it doesn't. I don't believe, at least, because healing happens before everything else. So you are going to be healed, the poison will be cured, it has a bit more health, it won't die to the fire. So this thing is alive now. I don't know if Papou knew that. They probably should know that because they've been playing the game for a long time. But yeah, it lived, and that is pretty much game over, as you can like guess from this map state, right? Like, look at this. This thing is going to get 2 hits, this thing is going to get 2 hits. These phobies can even move in to hit things if they want to, these two. This is going to move in behind them to have another threat. The Rambolina can wrap around here and push enemies into range of your other phobies. There's just no way that your team survives this dive. So essentially the game ended on this turn because of the positioning that dudiobugtron did. And the bad sheep doesn't die, but they've lost the Speedola now, which means this is powered down. They killed the Noxious for essentially free. They took back the panic points. This is still alive, which means you have to kill it and you're going to be taking dimensional damage. They removed the fire under the Erratic with the blob use from the honey bear, because there was nothing for this to really attack, so that just makes sense. This still has some turns of fighting back in it, or left in it, and these phobies are all perfectly fine right now. And there's 5 keys more, which Papou doesn't have. They just have this Cyclops for some reason. So the game is essentially over on this turn, or on the last turn, depending on how you want to look at it. But you can't even kill the Erratic here or anything. Which means you're going to be taking even more AoE damage. And your team is just gone. This is also pretty cute. They walk all the way around with the Rambolina to push this puff into the lava to kill it, which I think is nice. They could probably have done it some other way too, but looked pretty cool. And then the rest of this is just the Speedola running around for a little bit before it dies. Obviously, just gets cornered and dies here. The main things that you want to look at for this match was the early game turns, because you can see how dudiobugtron sets up a very effective defense against these Speedolas, and how Papou obviously makes several mistakes that made it even harder for themselves. But this is a very good way of defending. First, they bring out the Charon, which will allow them to set up their team better, and it also just works as a decent early game phobia against these small 1 keys that can hit them a little bit. Then they bring out a 4 key. This could also have been other 4 keys. They could have gone for Firkin Leprechaun if they want some anti-ability things. Many other options that there exist in there. You essentially just want something that is somewhat tanky at least, and can like fight a little bit. And then we get the Erratic on the following turn. This could have also been I believe it's called Sappy. I always forget if it's Sappy or Sparky. The 6 key electrical phobia. Could have also been that one to scare these away and deal a lot of damage to them. Both options are pretty good. We obviously saw that they got a lot of value out of the AoE here, so maybe Erratic is a better choice. Probably depends on what the opponent is doing though. But this is a very effective defense against Speedolas if you think that is what your opponent will be doing. We also saw this as a counter to the Rambolina. That is a bit more niche, but that's a pretty fun thing to see. Outside of that though, this was just like what I really wanted to showcase. The Charon into something else, into Erratic, makes for a really good defense against these, as long as you make sure that the Erratic is in a position where it cannot be one-shot. Could also be the Sappy, same idea. that is essentially just what you do. You bring one of those slow electrical powerhouses and you place it near the heart, and then you use Sharon to slowly push them out of the map and force them into their side of the map where they can never really find some kind of path to hard rush you on. And then you just have a better team for fighting than they have, because they have large mechanicals, whereas you have electrical phobies, which is going to be pretty hard for them to deal with. That was all I had for this one, so I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.